Walking in the halls, gonna find out about someone new today. Finding out something about that friend, gonna learn something new today. Here at Weston Elementary, gonna find out about someone new each and every episode. All right, Charlie, that was pretty good. Let's get the show started. All right.
So I'd like to welcome our guest this week on this episode of Walking the Halls with the Principal is a former teacher here. And we're going to learn a little bit about when and about what subjects she taught. I even have some questions from some of our students. I've been asking what kind of questions would they have. So they have about 3 questions that I'd like to ask you as we walk today. So welcome, Mrs. Dido Nash.
Thank you.
I'm so excited. I actually have heard a lot about you through my parents, actually, who apparently had you when they were in
high school. Yes.
In Reedsburg.
At Webb.
I
had both of them.
Yeah, and they love telling me all about you. So I am excited about our interview today.
I am sure they did.
They certainly did, actually. And so I guess, first of all, welcome back to Weston.
Okay.
I guess my first question for you, Mrs. Nash, is, so was this your first teaching position?
No.
Okay, so maybe refresh the viewers' brains a little bit on like your journey to becoming a teacher. How did you get to Weston, and then what did you do before and after, and all of that?
All right, well, first of all, I was a graduate of Platteville. At the time, it was a teacher's college. In my first year of teaching, I went out to North Dakota. My parents lived in North Dakota, so I took a job in North Dakota. Probably not the wisest move in the world. We were snowed in for 6 weeks and flooded in for 6 weeks, and I came back to Wisconsin. And then I taught at Arcadia, Wisconsin. And I taught English, all 4 years of English, at Ashley, North Dakota. I was the only female on the high school faculty. And for some reason, things were always done democratically, and I lost every vote. So I had the plays and the school paper and the dances, the library. I don't think they could think of anything else. And I actually liked it. But Ashley at the time was settled very strongly with German people, and they spoke German at home and on the streets and in the churches. There were 11 new female teachers that year, but of course not in high school. And we used to take turns going to whatever church was English, because they only preached in English like once a month. Mm-hmm. So we went to all religions that spoke English. Mm-hmm. Probably wouldn't ever do that again. When the kids would give speeches in class, they would revert quite often to German. Mm. And it was a different experience. I really liked the people I worked with, and we became lifelong friends in many cases. But the weather at that time was not my cup of tea. So I left. Okay. Then I went to Arcadia, Wisconsin, and I taught English and music. I had freshman English, and that's the year Jordan and I were married. Okay. So.
And sorry, what year was that?
1952 to 53.
Okay, great.
And he was in the service and was being transferred, so I left Arcadia, and I did not teach while he was in service. And he had 4 years of duty. He had good duty. He had excellent duty. We were in the Washington, D.C. area. Okay. Don't know if you want to know anything about that or not. It was a good area to be in when you're broke, because everything is free, so much of it's free. He was stationed with the squadron that flew Eisenhower's plane, but not because he was a pilot or gifted in any way. He was writing a textbook, and his office was in the hangar.
Oh, wow.
So we were there for 2 years, and our son Randy was born in 1954, and he's our Southern rebel, I guess you could say. And I did not teach while he was in service. When we got out of service that year, I had our daughter, and we were at Rochester, Wisconsin, and he took a job as an ag instructor in a county school. They used to have them. And he was there for a year teaching, and then we did move to the farm, and he did part-time teaching there. I did not teach until, 1958, and I came to Weston. I don't even recall being interviewed, but it probably was. But they were desperate for teachers. I think they would have taken any breathing body.
Well, I'm sure you were more than any breathing body at the time.
I don't know that, but Mark Stone, a native of Reedsburg, was our principal, and he was one of the best I ever had. He was really, truly a fantastic principal.
Can I interrupt for just a second on
Yes.
that? Because I see Mark Stone's picture out in the hallway, and he looks like a guy who was always well dressed, and
Yes.
I see some bow ties on him and things like that. But he was only here for a couple years, I noticed.
Yes, and I can't recall just where he ended up, but the second year I taught here, a Mr. Lehner was principal, and he was so different from Mark, it was hard to adjust to him.
Okay. So you had two principals during the time that you were here.
Yes.
In those 3 years.
2 years.
Oh, 2 years. Okay. Tell me some qualities that you appreciated about the leadership at the time. So.
Well, Mark was innovative. He let me do whatever I wanted to do, which is an awful healthy situation. And I taught English and library my first year. We had another English teacher. The neat thing about this school at that time, we were so young and had such energy. Most of us were in our 20s. It's hard for me to think back that far. And we had a couple, I think Ernie Krogman and maybe Ron Bentley, were in their 30s. Grace Schaller, who was social studies, could have been in her 40s. And then Mrs. Todd was close to retirement. And she was only the senior, technically, on the faculty. And it was just an exciting time to teach.
Sure.
I think the Kinchies were early 20s, their first year out teaching. She taught English also, and Bob taught sciences, I believe. It was just a fantastic faculty. Yeah. And probably one of the most exciting, although I like my years at Reedsburg, but this was an exciting time. And I think the kids felt that way too.
Sure. This sounds like a perfect time to ask the questions from our students. I've got 3 questions. And the first, actually, more like 2 questions, but the first question comes from Peyton and Mackenzie, and they're in 5th grade.
Okay.
And they wanted to know, and you sort of touched on it while you were here, but maybe just specifically, they want to know, what did you teach when you were here? And what was one of your more favorite things about teaching at Weston?
I taught English. I had some freshman English classes. I had some others, but I don't quite remember just what. And I did forensics and one-act plays and had the library. I'm not trained in library, but I took a correspondence course, which, by the way, I never finished, and nobody seemed to care. And I think the biggest mistake I made at Weston, the library was where I tried to point it out to you before the addition. Yeah. And in the hallway, it was a bigger area somehow, and we had the lunch tables there. And that should have been the study hall. Mm-hmm. But somehow the study hall ended in the library, and the teachers assigned to the study hall just kind of disappeared. So I had them in the library. we got along okay. My second year here, I taught Spanish, 1 year, and I found that really nice. Now, after I left Arcadia, Wisconsin, where I taught a course of vocal music, and here when I taught Spanish, I took music and Spanish off my license, because by then I had caught on, if it was on your license, you might end up teaching it.
So it wasn't exactly your passion,
No.
is what you're saying. And so I'm curious about the Spanish part, because I can imagine in the 50s and 60s that I was that typical
No.
foreign languages being
No,
taught in school?
but they wanted it here.
Sure.
And we did have one boy, and I wish he was a Rockweiler, but I don't remember his first name. He actually went on and did an immersion in Spanish and actually served in some of the Mexican and South American countries.
Oh, nice.
It was interesting.
Yeah. But he was a Rockweiler.
Yes,
Okay, well, shout out to the Rockweiler family. If you know who that is,
yes,
let us know in the comments below.
that's right, because I did see him many years ago. I don't even know if he's still alive, but he had had a marvelous experience with Spanish.
Nice.
Yes.
All right, we have one more question. This comes from Will. Will is in Mrs. Holloway's class in 4th grade.
Okay.
And Will is wondering what it must have been like to teach without computers.
Well, I didn't even know enough about computers to really, I still don't, to really analyze it. I think probably it was much easier without computers to keep the students' attention. And around here, we didn't have a lot of TV. So we weren't competing with the programs on television.
Sure.
By the time I was teaching in Reedsburg, they expected a song and dance, I think.
Sure.
You know.
I was in my research for this. I Googled all of the things the world events, the important ones that are from 1958.
Okay.
And one of those things, you brought up television,
Yes.
was that was the year, 1958 was the year that the Muppets came
Yes.
to be. Do you recall any of that?
Oh yes, but we had
Yeah.
black and white television.
Sure.
Now I don't know how many of the people in this district had television, but we had all of 3 programs. We had CBS. Well, we just had the networks, and that's all you could get.
Right.
And most of the time, it didn't come in very good.
You're right.
We bought our first television when we were in Washington D.C. area. It was 10 inches and a lot of snow.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I can relate to that a little bit. Growing up where I grew up and not having cable, we
Yeah.
often would have the same situation. So
That's right.
now, would you like to walk the halls of the principal?
Sure, I
All
can
right.
do that.
All right, let's go. This gym is pretty much what it was like back then in terms of.
Yes,
let's-
except I think our bleachers were always down.
Oh, sure,
This looks, well, of course, with the bleachers, it looks bigger.
sure.
Yeah.
Um,
And we did have the Harlem Globetrotters come.
oh, really?
Oh, yeah,
Wow, what was that like?
different,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember, was that your first year, second year, third year? Do you remember?
Probably my first.
Okay. Wow.
And you also know, of course, that JFK spoke here.
I did not know that he came here.
Yes,
I
he
know-
came right
okay,
here and he
wow.
spoke on that stage.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah,
So,
and we had a huge crowd.
so this was getting to one of my other questions. So, like when I was in school as a young person in elementary school, I recall things like the Challenger explosion and
Yes.
things like this. So, what were those events? And you just hit on it. Maybe it was JFK coming to Weston.
It was,
You know,
that was in 1960. He was
1960.
coming for election. Now, Nixon wrote to us and turned down the invitation from the senior class.
Wow. Wow.
And that letter was posted on the window of the office, and I checked some years later with Cherry, and I can't remember her last name, she was the secretary at the time, to find out if it was in the archives. Because I think a school should
Yeah.
have archives.
Well, we'll have
And
to
they
check
couldn't
on that.
find it.
Okay.
It's gone.
So there was a letter that
From Nixon, signed by Nixon.
saying thanks but no thanks.
That's exactly right.
Oh my goodness. So if we
But I
if we
think
have that
that's
letter
history.
somewhere. That is history.
Well, I
agree.
don't think the school has it. I don't know who
Okay,
has it.
sure. Well, Facebook land, if you have it, we'd like to
Yeah.
see this letter.
Yeah.
So is that how Kennedy came to
He was
this area?
invited to come. Well, he had come to Reedsburg to speak.
Yeah.
And the class, well, actually, Don Seep, he won't kill me for saying it. He and Joe Peplinski, the ag instructor and senior class advisor, invited him.
Sure.
And I remember teasing Joe Peplinski, he was called Pep, that he had to be very careful when he picked him up because he had to say sir and not sire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, you have to lecture some people.
Sure. Some of us are a little slower than others
Yeah,
when
well,
it comes
he
to
wasn't
learning things.
slow, but he,
No, I'm
you
just
know.
teasing. Well, wonderful. I'm imagining that the W there and the
No, we didn't have it.
oh, didn't have it then.
No,
Okay,
I
so
don't even remember blue curtains, but we
Okay.
could have had them. And we
Let's-
had
I'm
no
gonna just do
curtains
a
in the
little-
back.
okay, I'm just gonna do a little pan here so
Yeah.
we can see
And
what I'm talking about.
The bleachers were always out.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, this is good. I forgot to about Kennedy's visit. I know he came to the Badger Theater in
Yes,
Reedsburg.
and then
you
after
know,
that he came here.
after that he came here.
Yes,
Wonderful.
and
Okay.
kids were thrilled about it.
Oh, I bet.
But of course, we also had some that weren't, but that
So,
was their problem.
let's talk
But
ab-
now,
How do you
they all shook, and many of them that could, shook his hand.
Okay. Well, I wonder, as a teacher, and you're preparing students for a visit like that, were there discussions about expectations of behavior?
I don't know what I did except in the newspaper article I was thanked, and I honest to God can't remember a thing I did.
Well, maybe you were. So
Well, I probably helped them with the letter,
with the letter, you absolutely probably did.
but
So
I don't know that.
well, we're looking
Oh,
at.
and then someplace around here, I don't know where the addition started,
Okay.
we had restrooms, faculty restrooms, women
Oh,
and
okay.
men.
Oh, I wonder if they were. Oh, I wonder if they were here.
Well, they could have been, I
Yeah.
didn't get that far.
Sure. So
Yes.
okay. Well, that's very fascinating to me.
Now you have this, and you see, we didn't have, we just were 9 through 12.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, and you said earlier in our conversations before we started recording that you thought we had around about a couple hundred students
Yeah,
in
well,
the entire
yeah. 9 through 12.
high school, 9
Yes,
through 12.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. What would you like to play 3 things with me?
What are we playing?
Well, 3 things means that I say Weston, and you just tell me one person, one place, and one thing that comes to mind. So if you can think of one person that comes to mind, I know it might be hard because you've probably have a
Well,
lot of people in mind, but
Okay, one person that comes to mind, of course, is Mark Stone. And you see, the only person I don't know, if he's still alive, is Mr. Spidell, the second-year band student when I was here. Otherwise, I think they're all dead. And they were remarkable, good people. But I also remember one other thing that I should bring up because it still bothers me. Back then, they had cost of living. Only men got that. And we were not paid for any extracurricular. I'm sure sports were paid. And we also had to chaperone buses. And so you'd chaperone at a ball game and come home very late. And at Ward's Corners, I don't even know if it's called that now or not, they would leave, just let the kids off the bus and they had to get to their own houses.
sure,
And I was really upset.
sure.
And I must have shown it. Because when I got home that night, I had phone calls from every kid that he was home safe.
Oh,
So the kids were that kind of
yeah,
student. back
Yes,
then.
so-
And very considerate.
yes.
That doesn't mean they behaved all the time.
Well, kids are still kids, right?
That's right, they're
Yeah.
supposed to be.
Okay, so that's one person. You talk about Mr. Stone.
Yes.
Mark Stone. Anything else you want to say about Mark Stone before we move on to the other 2 things?
Well, many years later, he and his wife invited Jordan and me to have lunch with them wherever they were living. it was close to Green Bay, but I can't remember the exact town. And it was just so nice. He didn't live much long after that. And when he was younger, he had some type of heart trouble. And it was really difficult for him to have health insurance and life insurance. And I know in order for him to be insured, all the teachers had to sign up for insurance, so I signed up too. And that was kind of stupid because I had Jordans. I mean, I didn't need benefits, but he had to have insurance. Now, see, this was not here.
No, so we're walking through the newer part of the school.
Yes.
I
like it.
Yeah, we're gonna walk you through, and I want to talk about some of these graduates from 58 through 60.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So, what about a place? What's one place and one thing?
One place.
Yeah.
Should be connected to Weston. Oh, I will talk about Kaz.
Okay.
When I would chaperone buses, I would catch the bus outside a Salt Weedle store in Cazenovia, and I'd leave my car there. And just before the bus would get back, Paul Saltweedle would go out and start my car, so when I got in, it was warm.
Oh,
Well, I think
nice.
that's kind of nice.
that is very nice. Those salt weedles are nice, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
That's right. Shout out to our friend John over at Salt
Yes,
Weedles as
yes,
well.
that's true.
Yes.
And, well, you could trust to let the car run. I mean,
Yes.
it was a different world.
Okay, so that's
And this is all addition.
this is all new. Yep, since then. All right, so you mentioned Mark Stone. You mentioned Salt Weedles.
Yes.
And then what about a thing? Is there a thing that comes to mind? One thing? And it doesn't have to be a tangible thing. It could be an idea or a thing.
Oh, that's a terrible thing.
Okay.
Yeah. What do I remember? Oh, I remember when the Harlem Globetrotters were here, they got out kids writing things, and they had the female faculty race on them.
Okay.
I won.
Ah, all right.
Well, I was the youngest.
Yeah, there you go. Hey,
Yeah. But boy, this is a long walk.
we made the whole loop here. All right, so I actually looked up some events, Mrs.
Okay.
Nash, from 1958, and I just wondered if you had any memories or connections that might have occurred at school during that time. So one of the things was that the Milwaukee Braves played in a World Series against the New York Yankees at that
And that's
time.
exactly right. We
Yeah.
had a TV in the gym because, what's his first name, Riney, like his dad's?
Yeah,
Duran?
Ryan Duran. Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
and of course I had in freshman English his brother, Eddie Bill Duran,
Oh, nice.
and of course Kaz is a baseball town anyway.
Yes.
So if the kids were free and not in class, they could go watch the game
And where did you watch it?
in the gym.
In the gym. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And how clear was the reception for that?
I don't remember, but I think pretty good because there was a lot of yelling and advice.
Yeah. Well, and those took place during the daytime then?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's
And of
very
course,
cool.
it was a Cazenovia boy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so,
Ryan Duran is the Yankee pitcher in the sixth.
wow, very cool. Another thing that happened was that NASA was created, the space
Yes.
program. And so I'm just curious if you remember
Well,
anything.
it
We're going to
was
stop
only
right about here.
created-
Let's stop right here too.
Okay. It was only created, but when my son was little, they were starting to blast off.
Okay.
And one of my biggest regrets was I had him get on the school bus to go to school instead of watching the blast off.
Okay.
And it was essential back then,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
Now there's Mark Stone,
All right. So do you remember? We're looking at the
class of 58.
class of '58.
15. Well, I didn't know the class of 58 that well because
Okay.
I came in 58
Sure.
and I knew the class of 59 and 60.
Okay. I do have to ask you if you have any memory of this young man, Jay Meyer here. He would have been my uncle, Jim Meyer.
Well, he was already
He was your
gone.
okay, so he was in a senior year. You were
Yeah.
your first year here.
Wait, no,
so
no. My
No?
first year here was,
in between here.
oh gosh, I gotta think. See, he had graduated in 58 in the spring, and I came in the fall.
Okay.
So I did not
Okay.
know him that
Okay,
well.
so really 59, 60 are
That's
the years
it.
that, okay.
Yes.
All right. And tell us about, you attend some class reunions still with the class of 1960,
Yes.
is that right?
Yes.
Okay. How many are still attending some of those? What are the
Well,
sizes of
the
those
ones that
reunions?
are local.
Okay.
See, they had a big one for their 57th reunion, and they invited me there, and it was at the Voyager. Then they've had mini reunions every August at the Riverside in Spring Green, and I was always included in them until the pandemic,
Okay.
and I haven't heard from them since, so I don't know what's going on.
Okay. So I'm looking at the size of the graduating class of 1960. It looks like there's 7 in a row there. That's 21, 42, 49 students in the picture at least. So
Yeah,
about
well, I think
50
there
in the
were a
class.
few more that were not pictured.
In the picture, okay.
Yeah.
And so
At least if I went through the annual correctly.
sure.
And of course now with Bob Cunningham, I taught with him. He taught in Reedsburg.
Oh really?
And he was in middle school and I was in high school, but I worked with him. And in high school she was called Jen, but she's really Jan. She worked as the patient's advocate for a while in the hospital, and she helped us straighten out our health insurance and medical support and all that. Really brilliant. I loved it.
So there were some students that stayed local, and
lot.
then there were some students maybe that moved away and went on to different things as well.
And I've lost track of them.
Yeah, well that's
A lot
easy
of
to
them.
do, isn't it?
Yeah, and a lot of them live in Nevada or California, or
Yeah.
a lot of them in Madison.
Yeah,
You know, some are right around here yet.
sure.
And of course, Patty Luxton just died a couple of weeks ago. So that's happening all the time. And of course, Charles Binger over there, I went to college with him.
Oh.
So I missed out on him.
And he was a principal
Yes.
after you
After
you
I left.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, maybe we can talk a little bit. So let's talk teaching.
Okay.
So after Weston, you then went on and you taught in Reedsburg. That was, you took a couple years
I
off,
took
and then
2 years off, and then I went to
okay,
Reedsburg in 1962.
okay, and you taught in Reedsburg for
11 years.
11 years. So how long were you in teaching for?
15.
15. Okay, and I guess, is there anything that you know, in seeing what maybe teaching might be like, in hearing stories from teachers today, that is like, just blows your mind, it's different?
I couldn't do it.
It's different, yes.
It's different.
Yes.
I am not gifted with technology. Wendy always has to come rescue me, or my great-granddaughter Ellie. Somebody, even the youngest, can rescue me. And it's going to be hard for me to see this. And it just, well, it's different.
Yeah.
I think discipline would be different. I'd have a terrible time dealing with cell phones. And when I arrived in Wausau, and a dear friend of mine who had also taught at Webb was teaching at John Muir's Middle School in Wausau, and she told me, Dido, if you can't teach in Wausau. And I said, well, why not? She said, you'd kill somebody. She said, if you came into our school and heard the language, you'd be in trouble.
Yes.
And I think I don't know if that's true today, but I couldn't handle it.
So at the elementary, we started something called our SOAR pledge, because we're Eagles, so we
Yes.
soar, right?
Yes, you're supposed
And
to.
so we say we want to be safe, organized, accountable, and respectful. That's the
Yes.
Weston way. So we try to instill some of those
Well, that's good.
behaviors
Well,
early.
and of course, a lot of kids, it's what they hear at home sometimes,
Yes.
and that doesn't help. But back when I taught here, you didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean it didn't exist.
Yes.
You didn't hear
I'd
it.
like to go around the corner, and we have an eagle over here.
Okay.
One of the ways that we end our episodes is I say, soar, eagle, soar, and our guest always says Eagle Pride. So
Yes.
I'd love if you wouldn't humor me
I can humor you.
in doing that. Actually, let's do it in front of our Weston Silver Eagles
Oh,
sign.
yes.
Let's stand
And you
over-
still have the blue and the silver.
Yes, we
That
do.
light blue,
Yeah.
Columbia blue, very light.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not good in football.
Let's go over here, and we'll just kind of turn so we
Okay,
can
all right.
have that at our back. All right.
All right,
So
okay.
like this.
Okay.
All right, and I'm gonna say soar, eagle, soar. You're gonna say eagle, pride.
Okay.
All right. Ready? Soar, eagle, soar.
Eagle Pride.
Walking in the halls, walking in the halls. Gonna find out about someone new today. Finding out something about that friend. Gonna learn something new today. Here at Weston. Weston Elementary. Weston Elementary. Gonna find out about someone new. Each and every episode.